Hello, this is Steve Stine from Guitar Zoom. Welcome back. Okay, hopefully this whole journey for you is going awesome and you're really digging into the ideas that we're talking about and you're learning to implement them into your own playing. So today what I'm super excited to talk to you about is note targeting. Okay, we've been learning about the pentatonic and we've been learning how to play it across the fretboard, and we've been learning about the blues and how we know it's a 12-bar system and we know when it's going to the 1 or the 4 or the 5, and then we started meandering through various jam tracks, and hopefully you've been doing that with all kinds of different things, getting used to moving around the fretboard, right? Then we started breaking that into little pieces, so we actually started creating what we could call little mini phrases where we're really thinking about making a variety of places to start and stop and notes that we're emphasizing or we're starting on, and you know, the beats that we're starting and stopping on are changing, and so everything doesn't sound exactly the same, right? We don't want da 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 da. That is not what we want. We want it to be a variance, right? So some things are shorter and some things are longer and lower and higher, and there's just all kinds of different really cool things that you can do. Well, today what we're going to talk about is targeting specific notes that are relative to the chords that are being played. And I'm using similar jam tracks to things that we've done before just to keep everything common for you so we don't get overly confusing. So now what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be looking at an A minor chord. We're going to be doing 12-bar blues like we've been talking about. We're just going to convert everything into minor. So instead of playing an A major, D major, and E major, 1, 4, 5, we're going to play an A minor, D minor, and E minor, which happens in blues, happens in music all the time. We're not going to change anything about what we're doing in terms of our soloing so far. We're still using minor pentatonic over the top. We were using minor pentatonic over 3 major chords, which was kind of weird, but it sounds like blues. It sounds like rock and roll when you do that. So logically, if we're playing 3 minor chords, we can solo minor over the top of that too, okay? Here's what I want you to start thinking about. When you play the A minor chord, this chord consists of various notes. When you play the D minor chord, a chord is a collection of notes. When you play E minor, same thing. So we really have 2 choices here, depending on the path that you'd want to go in your learning. You could start learning your theory and find out what notes are in each one of these chords. And then you could find out where all those notes are on the fretboard, and you could start targeting those notes. And I think that's a beautiful idea. It is a much more involved path for you to start taking, but if you feel like you're ready for that, then that's some study that you need to start really thinking about, okay? Let me explain to you what I mean. If I play this A minor chord, the A minor chord consists of the notes A, C, and E, which we call the root, the third, and the fifth. A, B, C, D, E, okay? That's what we call it. And again, I don't want to get real deep into that, but that's what it would be. And my fretboard is covered with A's and C's and E's all over the place. I could play an A here, and a C here, and an E here, or an E here, and an A here, and a C, and an E. I mean, they're all over the place. I've got an A up here, a C, E. We've got these notes all over the place. But that's a little bit large, kind of a task for us to take on right now. So instead of doing that, what I want to do is I want to show you kind of a shortcut that you can use through your visualization of what you already know. Now, when I play this A minor chord, this A minor chord consists of this, 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 and this. Those are the notes of that A minor chord. When I play D minor, my notes are this, 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 and this. I'm just playing the notes of the chord. That's all I'm doing. Okay, and E minor would be up here. So my job here is I've got this A minor pentatonic scale that I'm visualizing. But now what I'm going to do is those notes that make up the chord are going to kind of be hovering over the top of the scale that I'm seeing. So I see this A minor pentatonic scale, whether it's 1 position or 2 positions or all 5 or whatever I've got. And then on top of that, I've got this chord that's sitting right here. There's my scale, and my A minor chord is sitting right here. Those notes of that chord are going to kind of light up. So I can see that pentatonic, but I can see those notes of that chord kind of lit up in my brain, on my fretboard. And then when the D minor chord comes up, I see those notes. And then when the E minor chord comes up, I see those notes. And what I can do, instead of just meandering and phrasing, moving around without a reason, like Again, I was talking about like going to the grocery store or something like that. That's a purpose. The grocery store is a reason. We're going there to get food, or we're going there to get whatever we're going to get. These notes, when we target something, it's giving us a purpose. Now, I'm going to show you very basic. I'm just going to start off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to target the note A on the 7th fret of the 4th string over the A. And then when the D chord comes up, I'm going to target the D on the 3rd string, 7th fret. And when the E chord comes up, I'm going to target the E on the 3rd string as well, but on the 9th fret. And just let me show you what this looks like. Here's my A. I might move around. And here comes my D. I'm going to go back to my A because here it comes. I know my 12-bar blues. Here comes that E. So go to the 5 chord, the turnaround. 4, 1. And even with as subtle an element as that, it gives my solo direction. So now all of a sudden I sound less like I'm meandering and more like I know what I'm doing. Even though I may not really know exactly what I'm doing, I sound a lot more like I do. Now, targeting notes, you're not obligated in music to have to target notes all the time. Like just because there's an A minor chord being played doesn't mean you have to land on A every single time. Or when the D chord comes up, you don't have to go to D every single time. Okay, you don't. But it's an option, and the more you use it, the more it sounds like you know what you're doing. Now, the next logical question is, if I can land on the A and the D and the E, can I land on those notes in other octaves or in other positions? Of course you can. Okay, you can go all over the fretboard. If I'm going A, there's an A. Here comes my D. And the next logical question after that would be, can I emphasize other notes other than the A or the D or the E? Okay? Remember, when you didn't know anything, you were emphasizing everything because you didn't know what to emphasize. You were just playing anything and everything at all times. And then we started breaking that down into pieces, which started sounding more like we were phrasing properly, which is perfect. Okay? So what I want you to think about here with that question is, can you emphasize other notes? Of course you can. But the trick is to try and make the listener hear that you know what you're doing. Now, as I just said, I literally, over an A minor chord, I could play any of those notes. Over a D minor, I could play any of those notes. Over an E minor, I could play any of those notes. But if I play all of those notes all the time over all of those chords, it begins to sound like meandering again because it sounds like I'm just doing anything. So the trick is to try and target something, and then in your mind start thinking about when that 4 chord's coming, what am I going to do to connect to that, right? Let me show you something a little bit different. I'm still going to target notes of each chord. So here's A minor. Now here, what I'm going to do is go to a different note of A minor. And here comes that D. Now this note is seriously cool because this note right here is actually the 6th fret of the 2nd string. That's not even pentatonic. We probably never would have even thought about playing that, but it is part of this chord. So over this particular jam track, when it goes to that D minor, that would be a beautiful note to play. Why? Because it's a completely fresh new color that the listener hasn't even heard yet, because we haven't even played it. Now, would that note sound good over A minor? Well, it would sound less good because it's not part of the chord, but it sounds beautiful over the A or over the D minor. You see? So I'm just thinking in my head, I'm trying to think logically, which is what music should do anyway, about how I'm going to make a melody over the top of these chords. Melody is created by making things that are compatible with the chords that are being played. Because if you think about it, if you've never done this before, you've always played in the proper key using a scale that is perfect, right? And all these kind of things. But we've never actually made an association to the chord. We've made associations to the rhythm bump, 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 decka, decka, all that kind of stuff. But we've never actually made a melodic connection to what's happening with the chords. So for the first time, we are now aware that there's an A minor chord being played, and we want to acknowledge that A minor chord somehow. And the easiest way is to use an A and a D and an E, obviously, the roots of each chord. But it can expand as far as you want. What I'm saying, though, is if you just start emphasizing everything, nothing is emphasized. You know, if I just start doing this, I'll be back to meandering. See what I'm saying? It just kind of sounds like what I used to do when I was just meandering and I was learning how to break pieces apart. So the trick is to really try and make something sound more important than something else, right? So A comes up. Here's my phrase. Here's my D. Here's my E. And all of a sudden it begins to sound more like I know what I'm doing. And it's a subtle switch from meandering to phrasing to note targeting. Okay? But it's really important that you learn how to do that. It's going to help your soloing so much to start sounding real. And again, yes, ultimately you might want to do that across the whole fretboard, but let's just start with something that we can see. Because you have to be able to see the pentatonic scale, and then you got to be able to see your chord over the top. Now, if you can see your chords across your whole fretboard and your pentatonic across your whole fretboard, you got all kinds of things you could do. And ultimately, that would be a wonderful thing to do. But let's be realistic and not worry about just growing our fretboard, which is great. It's a great practice, and don't get me wrong. But let's also focus on making some actual authentic sounding music. So when people listen to us play, they go, wow, that was really great. That's how you get in a band, right? That's how you play with other musicians. You're developing your improvisation and your fretboard skills, but you're also making music at the same time, which is pretty cool. So practice and stay positive, and let me know how things are going in the Guitar Zoom community. Let me know how things are progressing for you at this point.